Hello and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag, an Italy travel podcast. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Malor.
And today we are wrapping up our little Naples mini-series with Naples Condensed 2. We're going to be talking about a quick recall, going back
Rundown,
over.
yeah.
Rundown, there we go, of the neighborhoods in Naples, and we're going to talk a bit about the food.
Absolutely.
And before we get into it, we want to thank everybody who has been following us and leaving reviews. If you enjoy this podcast, you can follow us and leave a review if you want to, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also go to our website, onlyabag.com, if you want to read our articles, bookmark anything for your trip. It's easier to bookmark articles than it is to bookmark episodes. And you can also contact us there if you have any questions about your trip, if you have any suggestions for episodes, anything you need us to clarify. You can contact us on our website or on Instagram at Only a Bag Podcast. And if you would like to help out the channel, you can use the affiliate links in the description below. Basically, you're not charged anything extra if you purchase anything through those links, like a hotel stay, a tour, anything like that. But the company gives us a little kickback, which helps out the podcast. You can also donate directly to us at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/onlyabag, and help us with web hosting, help us get new equipment if and when we need it, things like that.
And we deeply, deeply appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
And without further ado, Naples Condensed 2.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I was very excited by that. It took me literally the last minute to think of it, so not a good start to the day.
Nice. So let's talk about neighborhoods. You're much more acquainted with the neighborhoods. I always get them all confused in their names.
I think that's fair, though. They are...
I know Napoli, which is really a street and not a neighborhood.
But it's so cool to say.
I know, and it's such a fun, weird place.
So
weird in a good way.
Weird in a good way, yes. So we basically... I realized that's actually over the course of Where to Stay, those 2 episodes, it almost became more of my answer to all these all these blog posts on where to stay in Naples. And not like in a derogatory sense or like, oh, these things are wrong. But I realized it was one of those things where... having stayed in Naples, and I think in Rome for the first time, we sort of lived in Rome, house sitting for almost a year, all told. Looking at these sort of things of like where to stay, I realized a lot of them are kind of just, it felt like, I'm like, have you visited, or is this? I mean, I don't mean that's in a bad way. I know that that's a big issue with travel writing. Like I get constant emails because ever since I've submitted stuff to like photos and things like that, they'll send emails, but like, when we have an open call, please have visited the place you're writing about. We can tell when you're just ripping this off of Wikipedia or somebody else's blog. Like, please.
Well, in fact, so I'm not a travel writer, but it's my understanding that sometimes people are like needs must because there's such an economy, or not an economy, but people are forced to churn out articles more than they really should.
Yes.
Like you have to write so much. And sometimes in order to make a living, you have to write articles about places that you haven't been because you have to make money.
Yes.
And because some websites don't care if you've been there or not. So.
And also you get like kind of writing like the 3 best like earplugs that and I was like, they're all earplugs, my guy. They're going to be the same earplugs. I mean, not really. There are different earplugs, obviously, to be clear. But I just meant like there are these really hyper specific things you're going to have to start writing about. So, and you're already like, how does it relate to neighborhoods? It does that because I realized when we were in Rome, once I looked this up because I wanted to write my own article, and I was like, I had all these lists, I had these articles. I'm like, am I like way off on this? So I was looking at other people's like Lonely Planet photos, things like that, and I realized it was kind of like more or less 6 of one, half a dozen the other. But it was, I think some of the reasons were different, and I think with Naples is the same way. I was like, oh, that's never a neighborhood I would recommend somebody stay, not because it's like dangerous or unsafe. It's just in the middle of nowhere and in a residential quarter, and it's a little bit like, especially because we're big on try to stay at hotels, not Airbnbs, or try to stay at hotels, not like vacation rentals. It can be really hard to find one when like if somebody's like, oh, you should stay in this really quiet, fancy neighborhood. It's like, yeah, but like they have no hotels in that quiet, fancy neighborhood by design.
Right.
So you staying there is what is just going to create sort of just conflict, which is all simply to say, running down these neighborhoods, I just have weird opinions on all of them. And no, I realized that over the course of the last 2 episodes, it kind of became like my response to all these things I had been reading. But essentially, just as a thing of there's only 5 really neighborhoods I think that are of real importance to you in your trip, especially unless you're staying there for like a month or 2. But if you're only there for a few nights, it's not a big list. First off is the train station. It is a very good place to stay if you are only there for a night. You limit transportation time to an absolute minimum. Basically, you arrive, you walk out, you go straight to your lodgings wherever it is. I think the closest is like there's a Star Hotel Terminus is like right there, and then like right beyond it, there's like 15 other hotels, all varying ages in the sense of like a lot of them are sort of like older train hotels, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, this was probably in the 80s, like this was fire, like this is amazing, like people love this, because people when he came to visit Naples, and then it kind of clearly hit the period of the 90s where nobody was coming to Naples, and then now it's coming out again, so people are like, oh, we never made money to like update these. And I think I also mentioned that Naples feels like in a weird place of, and I get this just literally, this is me coming up with this, it's just there seem to be far fewer hotels in Naples than there should be for population and tourism of that size. And I personally believe it's because when it started getting tourism again, because we went in 2015 for the first time, and it was, some parts were still pretty rough that today are actually like really popular tourist areas. They were still pretty like, oh, there's like no one down here and there's a bunch of trash around. And this was in the middle of the summer. It was kind of like, this is like the peak time to be visiting. This is weird. I think it was like early July, mid-July, something like that. So it was a really kind of like, where are we? So, and now of course we visit and it's slammed. And this is like, I think we mentioned it's the Galleria Umberto it's that area. It was completely falling apart. And this is kind of simply to say that I think that Airbnbs and short-term vacation rentals are really really took off at the same time that Naples tourism took off. So it was kind of like, instead of building a hotel, why not, rent out your mom's apartment kind of thing. So looking at the neighborhoods, train station, super simple. If you're coming in, you're staying a day. If you're planning on a lot of day trips, especially, the train station is kind of like the place to be. We mentioned it's possibly the only one on the list that does tend to get a little bit unsafe around in the evenings. In the summer, I've found that it's a little bit more, not unsafe, but there's like a definitely an energy. I think that a few times I've walked around like past midnight. There's one I was walking around when you weren't there. I was like, without you. But it was like 12:30, 1 in the morning, and it was super hot. It was just a heat wave come through, and there's a bunch of people out, so they're just kind of lounging, like
Because it was hot.
because
Yeah,
it was
makes
hot.
sense.
Everything was like watching their phones, just chilling out. Because like, we're not gonna go. We can't like, and again, obviously these apartments are sweltering. So I
And
think
tiny.
and tiny. So I think everyone was just trying to like, I just need to get somewhere like I can breathe. And there's definitely like an undercurrent of aggression. Just I think that people were hot and annoyed, and then they had to go to work the next day, and there's that sort of like, no one was looking for a fight, to be very clear, but there's definite that sort of like, I imagine if somebody had come through like screaming and hollering and being all excited, sort of drunken, there might have been some more of like the, can you stop that, please?
Yeah.
So there's that kind of place. I think we've also mentioned the only place we've seen like cops sort of fly by at night going, at 2 or 3 in the morning. Again, when I say at night, just, I keep saying this, but for the purposes of this miniseries, I do mean post 1 in the morning, post midnight, because people are still out at dinner around like 11:30. So that's the train station. Moving to the west, nailed it this time, is the Centro Storico. It is the historic center. It is split by Spaccanapoli, which is Darcy's favorite street in all of Naples.
It really is.
It is essentially just the historic tourist district. If in terms of staying there, if you don't need an elevator and you're comfortable walking upstairs, it is probably, and also if you're okay with a certain degree of noise and human to human contact, I think is not like, sorry, that sounded terrible.
Not in like a non-consensual way.
Yes, I meant more in the sense of it's just a lot of people in this area. It's kind of an interesting area just because it does feel like a lot of I don't know. There's just people.
There's a lot of life.
There's a lot of
there,
life, and
very
people
close
live
together.
outside, kind of thing. So a lot of people people live their life outside type thing. So it's very much a really good way to kind of see Naples and understand what people are talking about when they're like Naples. And I will say some parts of the Centro Storico, like anywhere else, are super touristy. It's just become an area where you're like, oh yeah, this is all vacation rentals and no one lives here. And there's other parts that are not as touristy and that are like, oh yeah, people rent and they've been renting here for 40 years. So that's kind of that. The vibe there is a bit more, I mean, arguably authentic, if you want to use that word, than somewhere else.
It is. It's like authentic mixed with touristy right on top of each other. All of it mixed in there together.
So south of there is the port. It's technically a little different neighborhood, technically, but because there's a neighborhood called Porto, but it's essentially an extension of the Centro Storico. You're going to get a similar feeling, a similar vibe there as you will in the Centro Storico. Moving west, loosely, it's like west, southwest. You're in the Spanish Quarter. I don't necessarily. It's one of the things. Again, we've said this before, and I keep saying this. I don't necessarily recommend staying there. Visiting, yes. Day trip, absolutely not day trip, but like walking around.
Unless you stay in the Palazzo Umberto. Was it Umberto? Where we're staying?
Galleria Umberto.
Galleria Umberto.
Yeah, no,
has a couple cool hotels.
That has a couple cool hotels. It's actually, and I think part of it is it's technically just outside of the
It is
Spanish
just
Quarter.
outside of Spanish Quarter.
I was thinking, you're right. I was thinking more there. The Spanish Quarter is comprised of all these Spanish apartment buildings from when they housed soldiers, and they are not how they were originally not constructed for comfort. So a lot of things were sort of tacked on, if that makes sense. And I mean, they did it well, but like bedrooms had to be cut up into different bedrooms and bathrooms and this and that. So it's a little bit like you can't take down the middle giant walls. You're kind of stuck with these massive walls, basically, which is all simply to say you might get something that is super loud, and you also might get something that is more tight than you're used to in terms of much smaller bathrooms than you're used to, much smaller beds than you're used to, much smaller anything else than you're used to. So Spanish Quarter is not a place I'd recommend staying necessarily.
It is also quite loud. I know we just talked about how Centro Storico can be loud, but I think the Spanish Quarter can be louder with traffic and things.
I think because people fly through on mopeds, because the Centro Storico doesn't really have a place to fly through on a moped. It's too many winding turns.
Yeah.
But the Spanish Quarter is on a grid format, so it really, you can just one end to the other and let it loose on a moped. And so there's that high-pitched whine throughout, that can be throughout the night, basically.
Yeah.
Going, I guess very quickly, going north is Vomero, which is a hill. I've never been there in evenings. I've heard, but apparently, according to like subreddits and things, it's a lot of nightlife, a lot of lounge bars, late night bars, clubs, things like that. So if you're into more of a nightlife scene and less into a historic scene or walking around or anything like that, if you're kind of like, I just want to see like what do young people do in parties or whatever it is, man, do I not sound like a young person? It would be Vomero. Apparently, that is like the place to be. So that is just in that sense of looking for a place that's interesting and has some nightlife. It would be Vomero. However, from the Spanish Quarter, instead of going, that was kind of north up the hill, going more west, I guess, is Chiaia. We've mentioned this before. It is a wealthier area. It's something less, I think, like Travel and Leisure listed like when celebrities come to Naples, they stay in Chiaia. And I'm like,
I like the way you say Chiaia.
How do you say?
Chiaia.
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 I like it.
It's like a little
I think you say it like very Southern Italian. Chiaia.
Chiaia.
I don't know. Maybe that's not Southern Italian. Sorry. Keep going. I love it.
So I think
that's where the famous people stay.
That's the famous people stay. And it's essentially, it's a lot of it's expensive cocktails, basically. Really, but it's like if you are, in my mind, right, genuinely, if you're retired or if you have a bit of money and you're not against spending a few €100 a night, and a dinner out that costs between 80 and 140 is not like budget breaking remotely, that would definitely be the place to stay. It's a flat area. It's right on the water. It's residential, super quiet. There are trees there. They didn't like cut down all the trees. There's also still some beautiful walks, a lot of boutique shops for made in Italy things that are clothing, leather goods, things like that. It's right next to all the action in the Spanish Quarter. It's right next to Via Toledo, but it's not there, so it's much quieter. To the west of that, you have Posillipo and you have Mergellina, which are even quieter, also wealthy neighborhoods. You also have beaches both in Chiaia and Posillipo. So if you're going in the summer and you're like, we may have a little relaxing stay, that is a great way. So I'm thinking if you're the type of traveler who is like, it's 1,000 a day, 1,000 euros a day is your comfort place. That's your budget. Thank you. Then honestly, Chiaia is like the place to be. I would argue, because
meaning 1,000 not per night at a hotel, but like in total,
food, hotel,
and all that,
that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you're just like because I'm thinking that's something that I think is if a lot of people are like, that's my one vacation a year, that's my one vacation every 2 or 3 years. It's like, but I want to make sure I'm like having a good time
and comfortable.
Yeah, that is a place to do it. I would recommend. And then that's kind of it in terms of like Chiaia. There's Vomero, there's Spanish Quarter / Via Toledo, there's the Centro Storico, and then there's the port / and then near the train station. There are a lot of other neighborhoods as well. Some are more studenty. We didn't put any of those in because those do pop up on the list. And I don't necessarily like the studenty ones because they tend to be a lot louder and they tend to be a lot more dedicated for students on a much tighter budget. So it's like certain amenities aren't there especially if you're a tourist. And again, louder, so much louder. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend anything too touristy or anything too far outside of Naples. That would be my other recommendation.
What are the two fancy neighborhoods that you have to, it's kind of like a drive into Naples, but they're still attached?
I think it's Mediterranean and Postilipo.
Those, okay. Cool.
Yeah, and they're a drive. I think is a pretty fair way. It's like you can technically walk. It's a nice 20-something, 30-something minute walk, depending where in Naples you're going to. But it's there, and again, nice residential quiet. That is very much where the money, especially the old money of Naples, lives there. Between Chiaia, Postilipo, and Mediterranean.
Cool.
So that is neighborhoods.
That's neighborhoods. Do you want to hop into talking about just some cheap eats?
Yes. Now that we've talked about $1,000 a day,
Exactly.
let's talk about
This is more our
$4
speed.
a day.
The cheap eats. Yeah, exactly. So we're just gonna. If you really want to know more about cheap eats, I do recommend you go listen to our previous episode on food in Naples that we just recently put out. But we're just gonna pop through a couple of big popular cheap eats in Naples real quick. So pizza portafolio, pizza wallet is
Easy.
what that translates to.
Simple, quick.
It is an entire pizza. Like we've said, pizzas are personal sized, meaning one per person. It's not like a personal pan pizza as you might have in the US. It is about the size of, it's about the size. It's a big pizza. Anyways, they're personal. And this is a whole pizza that is folded in half and then in half again, and you eat it in a triangle shape.
Yeah, pretty much. That's you nailed. It's a very fun little snack sort of lunch thing, by the way. I mean, I think.
And these are all street foods.
Yeah.
So as we've said before, cheap eats really is most things in Naples. If you go out to dinner, you're going to spend a lot less in Naples than you will in a lot of other places. I mean, you can spend a lot if that is your goal. But if your goal is to be on a tight budget, there are many restaurants in Naples where you can sit down and have an inexpensive meal.
I would say, and I would almost argue, just starting this, I think Naples, maybe Rome too, but like Rome kind of felt like, at least for us, there was like some sandwich places and this and that are like, but like kind of cheap, quote unquote. But even like a really cheap restaurant, you're still spending like 80 euros for two people, 40 euros per person. And I felt like Naples was a place where it was like, oh no, there was definitely a market for like, I need a $4 plate of pasta. What do you got? And they're like, oh, we have $4 plate of pasta. Yeah, come on in. So I think there's definitely just historically too and I've mentioned this in a previous episode, just that sort of rubbing of elbows between the incredible wealthy and the incredibly not wealthy, sort of rubbing shoulders in the same place. So having things that cater to everybody, which is also cool because, again, I think Naples is very much sort of like that. Again, I keep saying live outside, but it has that sort of thing. It used to be bigger. I know like New York City has the whole thing of like you just would stay. That would just be your apartment. You're not actually be in your apartment. And I think that, or at least maybe there's more now. I feel like in Friends, it'd be like, why would you ever leave an apartment that big? But no, I think in Naples is kind of like that. It's like if we have, of course, people who don't make that much money still need a place to go out to eat. That shouldn't be reserved just for people who make X amount a year kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And speaking of that, so let's quickly touch on dinner time.
Yes.
So dinner time is later in the South and earlier in the North. And we've said before in the previous episode, especially like for pizza, it takes a long time to get the pizza oven started. So being the first one to have the first pizza, that's like the first pancake. It's not the best pancake.
It is not.
So it's not the best pizza. 8:30 and 9 is going to be like a good pizza time. And that's about the regular dinner time, right? 8:30, 9:30 is a good time to start your dinner. Or that's the expected dinner time start.
Don't be like surprised if the restaurant's empty at 8:30.
Yes.
But especially if somebody told you it was a good restaurant. But if it's 9:30, no one's there, you could be a little surprised. That would be surprising.
And like we always say with Naples and a bit of Rome too, is that people will be out until very late at night, like 11 and 12 o'clock at night, because dinner starts so late, and because dinner in Italy is an hours long affair. It is not, we always say this, but it's not like in the US where people turn over tables quickly. That table is pretty much yours for a few hours. And if you're getting a dinner that's in courses rather than like a pizza, one course, you have pizza for dinner. Otherwise, you might be having like a pasta course, an antipasto, a secondo with meat. You might be having vegetables. Those might come out slowly if you are used to like a quick sort of, I guess, Western dinner style.
Where sometimes like the appetizer's still half eaten by the time they come out with the entree, and you're like, whoa. Yeah, this is like, not only will the plates be cleared, they'll give you 5 or 10 minutes to like really digest before
give you time
even
for a
firing
cigarette break if you want a cigarette break. If you don't want a cigarette break, they're still going to give you time for it.
Oh yeah, and everybody will take one. I mean, if they smoke, people, you see people leaving entire tables and coming back 20 minutes later, and then still their food's not there because obviously no one's going to serve them cold food. That'd be crazy.
Exactly.
Wild. I love it.
So back to street food.
Yes.
The cuopo. Did I say that right? Cuopo. It's a great word. It's a cup of little fried bites.
Yes.
A cup meaning like a
paper
cone sort of shape.
Yeah.
It's like the pommes frites sort of stuff,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
cup
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Often, so basically, these will be little hole in the wall places where you can choose which sort of like little fried items you want in your cup. A lot of them will be seafood, calamari, anchovies. Do they do like little fried anchovies? Is that a
Either
thing?
sardines and anchovies separately or together.
Okay. Sometimes they'll do little fried rice balls, which are different than arancini and
Souply.
soupli, but similar little fried rice balls. Sometimes those will have fish in them. A note is that if you are vegan or vegetarian, be very careful and ask what is in these things because it is likely they will have little fish or pancetta or cheese, anything like that, and it will all be fried in the same oil. So if
Yes.
allergies are a problem for you, wash out.
Yes. Yes, 100% all of that, yeah.
Thank you.
And then I think that's pretty much mostly like there are tons of other street food. Definitely look at the episode. Those are just the ones that we thought like you might be more interested in for a
Yeah.
condensed version. If you're just like, I'm going there, what do I need to know? Pizza portfolio, obviously, that's the big one. And then obviously the quopo and the dinner time. Mm-hmm. But also, if we may, just pastries.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It's like one of the best parts of
we're
Naples is
literally ending this
pastries.
episode with dessert.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, you really should, if you're going to, if you can eat pastries, you should eat pastries in Naples.
Do you want to talk about sfogliatella?
Yeah, just to kind of run it through very quickly, if y'all don't mind, if you again, if you're new to the series or anything like that. But essentially, we talked about it before, and it was a much nicer, much longer episode. But sfogliatella is the classic Napolitano pastry. It is essentially a little. It looks like a shell. They call it like it's like layered leaves is where the sfogliatella names come from. In America, we have something similar called a lobster tail. It is the same thing, but as a sweeter filling, different filling. I say same thing. Not actually the same thing, but it's derived from the same thing. It's not a
Got
separate
it.
dish that just happens to look similar. If you've seen the Great British Baking Show, then you've seen it.
It's wild that they made them make that. It is
I
so
know.
complicated. It's like French pastries and
Right.
Viennese pastries. People spend so long learning how to do this thing correctly. Sorry, I don't need to rant
Well, it's
about
actually no. You
Great
say that
British
because
Baking Show.
it's fascinating because genuinely, actually using that as an example is they do. I've obviously had an issue with the fact that like the Great British Baking Show sometimes makes people make something in 2 or 3 hours that does take people days to make. Like
Right.
should take you days to
That
make.
recipe takes days.
Exactly. And one of the things that's interesting is because with the sfogliatella, there are 2 different versions, the riccia and the frolla. The frolla is a short crust version. It's fine.
It's kind of just like a regular pastry.
It's just like
almost.
a regular pastry. It's fine. It's not great. It's like they have other things that are like that. I don't know. I have thoughts, y'all. But the riccia is the crunchy one. It is, Darcy, you do not like it because it feels like chewing on shards of glass that you
Yes.
make it clear every time because you're like, my mouth is now bleeding.
I don't really like crunchy things though.
You literally sat and ate a bag of chips yesterday
Okay,
for
really.
like an hour.
Really good point. I
One at a time, making sure the salt touched the top of your mouth so you get the full salt.
touched my tongue.
Just let you touch your tongue to get the full salt flavor. So yes,
So
I think you do
that's
like
a good
crunchy
point.
things.
But I guess I don't like to have a mouthful of something that is going to cut my mouth. Like not
Yes.
that crunchy. So it's not my favorite pastry, but it is an incredible pastry. I am not saying it's not, but it is glass like.
And I think even if you don't like it genuinely, I would be almost something that you should just
Yeah, even
try
if,
a bite of,
exactly,
if that makes
100%.
sense.
I'm
Like,
so glad that I have eaten them, even though they're not my favorite thing. They're really good and weird, and it's totally worth trying.
and that's the thing. I think one thing to add though, again, if you are vegan and or vegetarian, they are made with lard traditionally. You can ask. I did not know this, by the way. I was a vegetarian for like 6 years. I ate sfogliatella, assuming they were just made with butter or oil, and then it was like, and sometimes it would have a little bit of a like a little meaty taste. I just
Yeah.
assumed they were near something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
or
that's
just
fine.
like, oh, that's a really fatty butter that they have.
Yeah, and then I think like years later, and which is from now like a year and a half ago, a friend's mom was like, "Oh yeah, do you know they make them with lard? This and that." I was like, "They make them with lard." No. So if you are vegan vegetarian, they do make them with lard. If you are not, then you feel free to eat them. So that's the sfogliatella classic dish. You can get it everywhere. If you're leaving Naples, by the way, there is one in the train station. There's also one in the airport. They literally do not let you leave or arrive without tasting them. But I only mention that because the one in the airport's phenomenal. The Naples airport, as you leave, the one in the train station is decent. Like it's genuinely. When I say decent, I don't mean like, it's okay. I mean like it's if that's the only one you have. Great. That's
Then you've
fantastic.
had an
Then you've
actual
had an
one.
actual
Yeah, there's
one.
some places that we won't recommend, not for sfogliatella, but in general, when we recommend or don't recommend food because it's not a good version of it. And if you eat that version, you haven't really had one, you know?
Yes.
But both of these are, you've had a sfogliatella.
And I think that's actually a really fair thing. Sometimes we won't recommend places or we won't say something just because it's like we don't want that to be like, well, at least we tried it, but you didn't.
Right.
It's kind, I don't know. It's
We
it's
want you to have the real version of it. That's
Exactly.
a really actual good version.
so that's basically the sfogliatella. There's also baba,
I love baba.
which is actually, I mean, as we've learned in this episode, not this episode, the episode on things not Napolitano, despite the fact it's everywhere in Naples. Essentially, it's a yeast bread dough, risen and then soaked in rum simple syrup.
Yes.
If you have children and your kids are like, I would like that, because usually sometimes they come sliced in half and filled with cream, and if you have, and they're at the bottom row, right? So the kids can see it.
They're
I know.
totally where little kids' eyes would be.
Oh yeah, right.
They are not safe for children. They are 100% straight rum.
They
not
are
cooked,
super alcoholic.
very alcoholic.
So it is something to just keep in mind. And I think
Sorry, I said 100%, meaning there is rum in it. It is not like 100 proof or 100% rum.
No.
Just to clarify.
Just there's rum in it for sure.
Yes.
And I think it's funny because obviously in Italy, people don't have the same sort of aversion to feeding their kids alcohol. They're like, no, it's like a little bit of alcohol. There's a whole thing of last Christmas of like the friend's mom basically making a cake with, it was strega. And it was like her daughter was like, no, you can't be feeding my kid strega. She's 3. And it's like, how much strega could there possibly be in a bite? Really? It was so the cake did not have strega because it is the 21st century, and I guess feeding your kids alcohol is pretty much frowned upon these days. So keep that in mind if you're ordering the babà. Then the pastiera, classic Southern Italian, classic Napolitano dish. Basically, it is a pie that is more or less, it's going to be milk-soaked wheat grains or spelt grains, but usually wheat grains, ricotta, cream, eggs, baked in the oven. It has an orange, they use orange blossom as a flavoring. So if you get a good one, it's got real orange blossom. If you get a decent, not so good one, it's got the fake orange blossom flavoring, which is a difference, unfortunately. They're very popular around Easter. However, they are now kind of sold year round. But if you do go for Easter, you will see them everywhere, just like panettone in Christmas and in Easter, colombos are the kind of same thing, more or less, 6 of one, half dozen the other.
As a panettone?
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar, yeah.
So pastiera for Easter are a big thing if you happen to be there around whenever Easter is. I honestly have
But
no
they
idea.
do sell it year-round generally.
Yeah.
A lot of pastry shops.
Speaking of imported food, because baba came from Poland, then to France, and then stolen by Marie Antoinette's sister and brought to Naples. If you have not heard that episode, you should go watch that episode. It sounds way more interesting like that. But the graffa is also a product of Naples being under the heel of every other country except their own. And that was Austrians' gift from the Krapfen. And I do not know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is basically it's a donut. It's just a fried dough. I don't know if the Krapfen originally has potato in it, but the one in Naples, the graffa, does use potato. It's potato and wheat in a dough. Fried. Again, that place in the train station called Ciro, Ciro, does make fresh graffa there. They have a little camera set up so you can watch it. It's ridiculous, but you can also just use your eyes and see it.
Yeah.
And they will fry them there and sugar them there and sell them. So they're super fresh there, which I really appreciate because they are not something that's good, even a few hours later. They're just kind of like, that's just oil, but fresh, you pretend it doesn't taste like oil, and it's really good.
And if you're looking for them, we said that they are a lot like donuts, and they are, but they're in the shape of the ichthys.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's intentional. I say that because that's the shape. It's the Jesus fish shape. It's not like an American donut shape.
I think the American donuts are made differently in a pane, because I don't know if traditionally, like American donuts, if you take a link and then you attach the ends together.
I think so.
Okay, because I'm wondering if it's a lot easier to flip them and smash them together, because the two ends are still attached, but I'm wondering if it's easier just to pinch them, because you don't have to be nearly as accurate as like attaching them end to end, because that's just like, and if it comes undone, then you don't have a donut, you have just a churro, I guess.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're like, no, but if you pinch them, you really get it like sealed. So maybe it could just be like a happenstance thing. And then the last one, I think we want to mention torta caprese.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great option for anyone because it's delicious. But if you are gluten-free or sensitive to gluten, basically, you can eat this because it's made with almond flour. Do be sure to ask, like if you could get it at a pastry shop, ask to make sure that there's no wheat flour in there.
Or
just
at a restaurant.
Almond,
It's often
or
served at restaurants.
Thank you, yeah. But it is chocolate, almond flour, eggs, butter? Sugar? Is there butter in it? No.
I don't think so.
I don't
Oil,
think so.
possibly,
Oil.
but not sugar. Not
And
butter.
it is, it's short, meaning like it's risen, so it's kind of fluffy, but like dense in a nice way. Chocolatey, wonderful goodness.
It is fun. If you have a nut allergy, obviously not for you.
Yes.
It's 100% almonds. But no, it's a great option for if you're feeling like you're missing out and you can't eat gluten. It's a genuinely great option because it's naturally gluten-free, if that makes sense, in the sense that it's not something they made recently.
Right. It's not like the gluten-free option.
Exactly.
It just happens to be. Yes.
And I will also mention too, if you do go to any, if you are gluten-free, I should have put this in the episode, and you do go to any pastry shops, almost all pastry shops have cookies. And there are a lot of traditional cookies that are made with like hazelnut flour or almond flour and egg whites. That's pretty much it, and sugar. So it's a hard, crunchy, solely nut flour cookies. You should definitely ask anyway, because sometimes they will put other flours in there. But again, Italians being very big on tradition will not necessarily sully a nut flour cookie with a wheat flour. But if you are gluten free, there are genuinely other options for you that are not just like the gluten free option, but there's actually like, oh, this was made to be. But if you can't have nuts or wheat, then yeah, there's fewer things.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. I'm trying to think of. I think honestly, they're unfortunate are just the gluten free options of things, which is like the corn or rice flour.
Yeah.
Which is not as interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree.
So on that fun note.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was ending on a high note.
We haven't mentioned this at all, if you're gluten free, so a lot of it's become more and more popular. Like honestly, in the last like 2 or 3 years, at like pizza restaurants and things, or even places that serve pasta, signs will say if they have a gluten free option. Oftentimes, those are like very touristy places
Sure.
that advertise their gluten free option. It is not to disparage those places, and if that's where you want to go, absolutely go for it. But if you are gluten free, just maybe call ahead. I mean, I always recommend making reservations in advance, especially for dinner, but call in advance, I would recommend, and ask if they have a gluten-free option, because it is quite possible that they will, even if they don't advertise it on a sign.
And I will say some of the better pizza restaurants, like the pasta, unfortunately, almost always be corn. Very few people are making decent dried pasta that is gluten-free. However, a lot of the pizza restaurants that are nicer, like even, and there's some near us, that have kind of taken it on themselves to create a gluten-free dough that is as similar as possible to glutinous dough.
Right.
So they use like tapioca starch instead of obviously gluten, and they have like, it's a kind of a blend of things, but it very much looks similar. They try to get it like to be puffy on around the edges. They try to have like that nice char burn thing. So it's not like, because some places will just honestly put it on a, what is a tantamount to a cracker.
Yeah.
And use on that, and it's not very good.
Basically, it doesn't seem like there is commercially available gluten-free dough like there would be in the U.S. It's my understanding that a lot of bread places and pizza restaurants in the U.S. will buy commercial gluten-free dough that is well made because it's made in a factory and it's consistent. Here, it's more
very experimental.
And people make their own. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you can't necessarily just buy it from a factory. So every restaurant is quite possibly making their own if they can, or their other option is to get basically the cracker version from the grocery store.
Exactly. But there are options.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think with all that said, that is food, street food, pastries, and neighborhoods.
Yeah, condensed.
I love it. We'll see you on our next episode, Friday, for the last Naples Condensed, where we talk about, I think it's day trips.
I believe so.
All right. Fantastic.
Talk to you then. Tanti abbracci.